Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is recognized as a significant figure in global terrorism, known primarily as the mastermind behind the September 11th, 2001 attacks on the United States, one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in world history. From the early 1990s, Mohammed became involved in radical Islamist movements and deepened his ties with Al-Qaeda. Born in Pakistan and trained as an engineer, Mohammed eventually became the strategic brain of Al-Qaeda. His role in planning the September 11th attacks made him a globally recognized name. Mohammed developed the plan for the attacks in 1996, following a strategy aimed at delivering a major and symbolic blow against the West. These attacks fundamentally altered the United States' security policies and global counter-terrorism strategies. In 2003, Mohammed was captured in Pakistan, handed over to U.S. authorities, and has been detained at Guantanamo Bay ever since. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was born in 1964 in Kuwait to a Pakistani family. His family hailed from the Balochistan region of Pakistan, and Mohammed spent his childhood in Kuwait. He was introduced to radical ideas at a young age and went to Pakistan in the 1980s to join the Afghan resistance against the Soviet Union. Among the Mujahideen fighting against the Soviet occupation in Afghanistan, he adopted radical Islamist ideology. Mohammed was educated in the United States, earning a degree in mechanical engineering from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University in 1986. During this time, he developed a deep hatred for the Western education system and culture. After completing his education, he returned to Afghanistan and strengthened his ties with radical Islamist groups. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's involvement in terrorism made him one of the most wanted terrorists at the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century. He connected with Al-Qaeda in the early 1990s and began putting his radical Islamist ideology into practice. In 1993, Mohammed played a key role in the bombing of the World Trade Center in New York. This attack, which took place in the building's basement, caused significant damage but failed to achieve its primary objective of bringing down the towers. This attack is considered a precursor to the large-scale terrorist attack that would occur on September 11, 2001. His position within Al-Qaeda made him the organization's strategic mastermind. Mohammed worked as the right-hand man of Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden and played a crucial role in shaping the organization's global jihad plans. During this time, he trained in Al-Qaeda camps in Afghanistan and Pakistan and established connections with other radical groups. The 9/11 attacks stand as Mohammed's most infamous and terrifying act. He was actively involved in every stage of the attacks, from planning to selecting, training, and coordinating the attackers. The attacks on September 11, 2001 were a profoundly shocking event for the United States. 4 passenger planes were hijacked. 2 crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. 1 struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and the 4th crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. These attacks resulted in the deaths of approximately 3,000 people and marked the beginning of a new era in global counterterrorism. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is regarded as the mastermind behind this attack, which had far-reaching global repercussions. Following the attacks, Mohammed continued to manage other operations for Al-Qaeda. However, he was captured in Pakistan in 2003 and handed over to U.S. authorities. He has been detained at Guantanamo Bay ever since, awaiting trial on charges of war crimes, murder, and terrorism. Mohammed's activities are considered critical in understanding how global terrorism is planned and executed. His leadership and strategic intelligence played a central role in carrying out the 9/11 attacks and expanding Al-Qaeda's global terrorism network. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed began developing the core idea for the 9/11 attacks in 1996. The primary goal of this attack was to deliver a massive blow against the West, conveying both symbolic and strategic messages. Mohammed devised the plan to punish the Western world, particularly the United States, for its global hegemony and interventions in the Muslim world. The plan was built on the idea that a massive destruction in the heart of the United States would expose the vulnerability of the West and demonstrate Al-Qaeda's determination in its global jihad struggle. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's process of planning the 9/11 attacks began with strategic approval from Osama bin Laden. Bin Laden viewed this attack as a victory against the United States and gave Mohammed full authority to proceed. With this approval, Mohammed meticulously designed the details of the attack. The primary objective was to strike at the economic, military, and political centers of the US, creating widespread chaos in the country. Mohammed focused on selecting the most impactful targets to maximize the attack's effect. The World Trade Center in New York symbolized the country's economic power, and its destruction would deliver a significant blow to the US economy. The Pentagon was targeted as the center of US military power, aiming to directly threaten the country's defense mechanisms. The third target was a political symbol such as the White House or Capitol Hill. These targets were chosen to represent the US government structure and intended to create political chaos in the country. This detailed planning was the product of a complex strategy serving Al-Qaeda's strategic goals. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed coordinated every stage of the plan, developing a comprehensive strategy that included selecting, training, and organizing the attackers, as well as determining the targets. This process ensured the successful execution of the attack, which has gone down in history as one of the most destructive terrorist attacks in the world. One of the most critical objectives of the attack was to deeply shake America's perception of security. Mohammed knew that these attacks would reveal the fragility of US domestic security to the world. Moreover, the effects of the attack would not be limited to America, but would create deep shock and fear throughout the Western world. The plan aimed to expose the vulnerability of the US by causing large-scale destruction and the deaths of thousands, ultimately delivering a significant victory to the global jihad movement. As Mohammed set his plan in motion, he selected suitable individuals for this attack within Al-Qaeda. The attackers were specifically chosen from among those who had been educated in the West, were fluent in English, and had the ability to fly planes. Mohammed played an active role in the selection and training of the attackers. Key individuals such as Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Sheikhi, Ziad Jarrah, and Hani Hanjour, who were part of the group known as the Hamburg Cell, were selected for this operation. Mohammed sent the attackers to the United States to receive training and develop their flight skills. The attackers trained at various flight schools and gained the necessary skills by participating in civilian flights. Throughout this process, Mohammed controlled every stage of the attack and meticulously instructed the attackers on their tasks. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed played a critical role not only in planning the 9/11 attacks, but also in controlling and communicating during the attack. Mohammed remotely controlled every stage of the attack and maintained regular communication with the attackers. He held face-to-face meetings with the attackers, providing detailed instructions on how to carry out the attack and personally supervised the final preparations. During this process, he ensured that the attackers were fully prepared for their assigned tasks. Each of the 4 planes used in the attack was planned to strike different strategic targets in the United States: the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and either the White House or Capitol Hill. Mohammed played a key role in selecting these targets, ensuring that the attack carried a significant symbolic meaning. The selection of these targets aimed to directly attack America's economic, military, and political power, creating a significant impact worldwide. In the final stages of the attack, Mohammed remained in constant communication with the attackers to keep their motivation high and ensure that they adhered to the plan. He carefully reviewed every detail to ensure that the instructions were followed precisely. This process contributed to the successful execution of the attack, which has gone down in history as one of the deadliest terrorist attacks. Following the attack, Mohammed continued to oversee the process remotely and coordinated the necessary steps for Al-Qaeda to achieve its strategic objectives. During this phase, he analyzed the results of the attack and drew lessons for the organization's future plans. Mohammed's role in this process made him one of the most notorious figures in the history of global terrorism. There is no definitive information regarding Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's exact location or actions during the September 11, 2001 attacks. Some reports suggest that Mohammed was in Pakistan at the time and felt great satisfaction when he learned that the attacks had been successfully carried out. However, there is no clear evidence that he actively communicated or monitored the events during the attack, which further obscures his role. Given Mohammed's involvement in planning and executing the attacks, it is believed that he closely monitored the process to ensure that no complications arose during the attack. However, the lack of concrete evidence about his exact whereabouts and actions during the attack makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions. This ambiguity indicates that despite his prominent position within Al-Qaeda, Mohammed moved even more covertly after the attacks.